2 minutes, because I know Abe's on a time schedule for 3:30, right, Abe?
Yep, that's right. Thank you.
And so we'll do the minutes first, but I'll just give Ron another minute or two so you can say hello to everybody, and I'm not timing it. Okay? But hold on, give them like a minute. Everybody come ready to go? Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know, I think everybody's catching spring fever. I can see it out there, and we're inside, and it's only going to get worse, folks. So it's starting here now. So I appreciate you giving your time and attention to coming to the council meeting. And I know that we don't conduct them outside, and we conduct them here, but we have a wonderful view. And I'll try to be as efficient with your time as I can be, so you can enjoy the spring. So welcome in the spring. Haven't seen anybody since the winter, and everybody looks well. Hopefully you are. And my little perspective, university's not in the headlines. Generally, headlines aren't applause. They're usually critical. And so things seem to be running smoothly, but I'll hear in a little more detail in a minute. So the first thing I would like to do is ask for approval of the minutes. Is there any additions, deletions, corrections? There being none, is there?
No.
Oh, that's a motion.
She's waiting.
Okay, and a second from Renee? Or?
Yes.
Okay, fine. And all approved? Abe? Thank you. Minutes approved. Excellent. And next thing, I think I'm going to turn to Dr. Wheeler, our leader.
So wonderful. I'm going to paying very close attention to my time. Abe, I want to make sure you get out of here on time, but I do want to supplement things that you may have seen in terms of updates that you get as alum or some other my normal report. Highlight a few things. And driving back here today from Albany, the word that came to mind is thankful. So you say, thank goodness we're not in the news. That's certainly one. I want to thank the staff who we've been through a lot just this semester. As many of you know, we started the semester with a really rough instance where a student was killed. And that really, started us off in a set of activities none of us wanted, but we all had to respond to. And then maybe to what we were alluding to is that we're not in the news. We did have I would call a successful event and a counter protest around the Palestinian-Israeli conflict ongoing. Our Jewish Students Union brought 3 reservists, IDF, to campus to speak. It resulted in a counter protest. The team huddled several times. We worked with the students through every lens, student affairs, HRDI, enrollment management, cultural inclusiveness, Shelley and OCM, everybody, academic affairs. And I think we guided as best we could, more level-headed thinking. There were more than 250 protesters on the campus and nearly 100 people inside the venue. So it got a fair number of people. I don't think anybody ultimately felt that they were shut up, but at the same time, we didn't let people escalate to any situation where people said, I personally felt threatened. People were pissed because the event actually happened, or people were ticked and pissed because we didn't shut it down. Every configuration was on the table, and you know what that means. No, everybody's going to walk away happy. College campuses are full of people not being happy. They don't like getting a B when they thought they should get an A. They don't like that the instructor did a pop quiz. They don't like that the instructor did the quiz at 3 in the afternoon instead of 3:20 in the afternoon. You name it, we can find an issue around it. But that's the nature of developing resiliency and capacity. We're not always here to fix geoglobal problems, but we are here to provide the highest quality education that we possibly can and to be a value to the citizens here in New York. And I think, darn it, we did it. So I definitely want to take a moment to thank the staff who worked around the clock for multiple days, because I was on the West Coast for a for starting off at a fundraiser event and stuff. So I was in the 5 o'clock zone when we were 8:30, and it was full on. I next want to thank.
I'm just going to say, and you deserve a lot of credit. I mean, everybody involved. It was not easy. It could go really, really, really off the rails and maybe even irretrievably off the rails. And so to orchestrate it and to have it participated in by all manner of people, it's really exemplifies what the institution is about. And I want to say thank you to all of you for, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's time and it sometimes draws you from other things that you feel you could be more productive. But all in all, it is a learning experience, number one, about civility and about disputes and how you conduct yourselves. Yep. And it exemplifies that. It's a takeaway for all manner of conflict, not just this conflict.
Correct.
But it's just, and it's really exemplifies the institution, the leadership, and the participants. So I want to personally say thank you very, very much.
Right. Thank you.
And I mean it sincerely. It's not, and I know it's not easy.
Right. And as you mentioned earlier, maybe it's the beautiful weather today. It's so easy. And then I saw Renee when I came in. I saw you when I came in. I'm in the right place. I'm feeling gung ho. So I want to now thank the College Council. You volunteered to do this, and I just came off of 2 meetings. Today was a Science of Reading, Dyslexia meeting. Yesterday was a Chancellor President's meeting. And still at this moment, I feel like I'm in a privileged zone working with a group of folk, and you specifically as a leader of the council, as members of the council, you bring confidence, knowledge, wisdom. Faculty members, absolutely, our electeds locally, our supporters of electeds and other such roles. I just want to say thank you, because I listened to some of the other presidents and I was bemoaning going to the president's meeting. But I actually got a lot out of it and listened, but also felt comfortable and confident that we are doing something right. And I've told the team here, we've had 4 events on campus that could have gone south. We haven't had that happen. We need to extract from that lessons learned. And I actually think we should start to package that in a way that lives beyond just the moment. How institutions like ours can pull together in really tough times with faculty, with staff, with students, with the community to do things in a way that honor the tradition of a liberal arts institution, but at the same time protects First Amendment right, Title VI rights, and none of that. And I can look at Tahina, who's HRDI and happens to be an attorney as well. She knows the fine line there on every element. And my hat goes off to you, and we'll exactly.
You earn your salary, by the way. And from my observation, being proactive, and it doesn't mean you're going to be right on everything, but you've got to get out there. And if you just wait to react, you're starting from behind the starting line.
Have you heard that anywhere before?
Exactly. But the starting line isn't where things begin, okay? It begins before the starting line in just about anything in life. And I'm good at saying this, but not so good at following my own. But, sometimes it just comes. And so that's what it's a testament to. Is, foundation that you have, but then also being proactive to begin with. So yeah, it's kind of obvious. And when you say package it, there's another and another and another and another, and things won't always go smooth. Sometimes they will go off the rail.
That's right.
And then you're challenged more, but having the good foundation is essential.
One comment on that, because that's a page out of our book, and I think you've heard it from me. The extent to which we have been proactive and engaging in brave discussions and moving away from everybody feeling the need to be safe, but the realization that you are going to feel discomfort in life. And how do you respond to it is the thing you have to control. We can't stop events. So great news, NCAA, we were there. Both men's and women won their conference. That was great. The men, they both got to NCAA, didn't make it past the first round, but I was there for the women's. It was phenomenal, the school spirit. So I want to congratulate all of those individuals. I've talked about the event. There have been many highlights. Michelle's going to talk about the budget. Stella's here to talk about enrollment management if we have questions, but we're moving. We're in the right direction. There's a FAFSA glitch, which is affecting the whole country. We've got 2 major events coming up soon that is going to help us bring in our classes. We're assisting the College of St. Rose as they teach out. They're closing at the end of this academic year. This is the 3rd time I've been a partner in a teach out. It's never easy. And our team has done a great job of being of assistance. Let's see, we look forward to a number of events on campus. Update on advising. We will be moving most of the advising components out of student affairs or enrollment management into academic affairs. I've been a proponent of that because it's about academic success, and I think academic advising should be in the office of the provost. And so we're moving that forward. We can answer questions about that. Shelley and her team are leading some really innovative work around parent engagement, because we realize parents are really critical to this. Erica and her team have been doing phenomenal activities. I did a West Coast tour, as I said. I was in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Palo Alto, and Seattle. Met with alumni. It was really great. It was, I'm exercising now because it was very filling. But the week before that, I was in Cuba as a delegate with a SUNY contingency at the international conference. It was a great opportunity. We even had a reception hosted by the president of Cuba, who stopped with each delegation for photo ops. So it was just an interesting cultural experience. But I met with folks at SUNY yesterday. They're interested in expanding or continuing the dialogue. So they've asked that some of us who were there participate on the committee moving forward. So there's going to be some interesting dialogue there. We have a new police chief, Ryan Williams, who's been with us for a period of time. He's cut his teeth here. And so we said farewell to Chief Corbacero. That was bittersweet, but he made the decision to retire. I want to add a couple of things because they are hot off the press. We were today, Assembly member Joanne Simon invited us up to talk about the science of reading. It was in part of the Dyslexia Advocate Awareness Day. It was a really great opportunity for us, members of our DRC, Professor Sarah Holborn was there, who was really instrumental in the design and development and is an expert in dyslexia. Provost was there, so we were well represented, and many people who spoke thanked SUNY New Paltz for being at the forefront, and Bill was there to field questions. Saturday last week, we had a phenomenal event that I think captured what SUNY New Paltz is about. This was the commissioning of an ROTC leader. He finished his degree in electrical engineering. He immigrated to America from Africa only 7 years ago, joined the military and completed a science and engineering degree, and is now a 2nd lieutenant in the U.S. Army. If that doesn't speak to why a public institution exists, nothing does. It was, there must have been about 60 people there. Of course, his family, members, and it was just phenomenal. And there were quite a few students there. 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. That was phenomenal. This dude was also an RA on our campus, so he did it all. He's going to be one of those rising stars who is just the embodiment of everything that we say we stand for. All of you who are donors, that's precisely what we do. I'm also on the Sustainable Ulster Workforce Innovation Center. That's going to be the IPARC 87 component of higher ed. So this is a workforce think tank right now. We think of values, mission, et cetera, that's headed by county executive. And that's been exciting to participate in. And then the other thing I'm involved in is a legal sustainability kind of task force with the general counsel of SUNY. Why do I say that? Because when I think about the strength of our team, Stella is no longer interim. She is now the vice president. So I congratulate Stella. I'm the vice president for enrollment management. Bill is coming towards the end of his first year, gives me great leadership. Kathleen is here as part of our student affairs reorganization. Stephanie departed in December, and we're still trying to figure out where to go next. I just want to, highlight the strength of the team because it gives me the ability to do what a president must do, and that is to be present to the rest of the world as well. That when people call me up because of something we've said or something we've done, they know that they can get the kind of SUNY New Paltz reception that they expect. Delivery of something substantive, bringing critical issues to the table, not flinching away from the tough discussions, and always being focused on solutions. And problems are only there for us to overcome. That's my update. I'm happy to answer questions about any of the things that you may have heard that I just hit on briefly. But it's been an exciting semester. It's been tough at times, but I do want to say in closing, couple of, because I look around the table, we will be doing strategic planning in the fall. And we will make sure that we're aligning to the pillars of SUNY New Paltz and the pillars of SUNY, the chancellor's 4 pillars: student success, research, community and economic mobility, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I just want to close on that point because you were talking about how hard it is to get employees, especially after COVID and stuff. We've got to do a better job in making sure that our faculty and staff reflect the student body that we get. If we're not bringing in people that are students, because this was one of the critiques and complaints yesterday during the president's meeting, how difficult it is. But if we don't, students get here and they often leave because there's no one that they can truly connect with. And so being proactive, being out with the students is also something that I take very seriously. And so walking about campus, being at almost any event you invite me to, those are the kinds of things that matter. So that's my report. That's my update. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I would just like to thank you for doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a team effort. There's a team effort, but like I said, it's year 2. Year 1 was amazing. Year 2 has been like, okay, I've done this before. What are we supposed to do? And as I get to the end of year 3, it's like, okay, here's where we're going. As I said to somebody before, I'm no longer becoming the president. I am the president. And so it's sitting comfortably in a space that, you know, it's like a furniture. You make it your own. And that first year was exploratory. And now I'm putting the pieces together. And I guarantee you that in year 3, we're going next.
Bravo. And so you're engaged, let's see, internationally, nationally on the West Coast to East Coast, let's see, and more from my selfish parochial position into the local workforce engagement, which is a way of keeping those graduates which are coming here to work locally.
Yep.
And so it's on all levels that the institution is serving the needs of our community. And it's something I don't know if everybody outside the prison of the college and university knows how engaged the university is locally in what is the needs of the community. Because I just, when you talk about that, I think about my office and, you know, hiring, bringing people in. It just, there's a desperate need for people in the workforce. Apropos of the immigrant story of the immigration, the other side of it is not only do they just come here, but they participate and excel.
Yes.
And what we provide is an education to give that ability to support us all, engage. And it's not often told. It's told headlines are, that's what I think goes off, you know,
Yeah.
goes bad, not when these things go well. And it's just, you know, what do I think? Just needs to get out there maybe a little more. Because it, you know, the inertia and the need is get it, keep it rolling. So thank you. And it makes me feel good that, you know, that people out here in New Paltz are not just the students, not just the faculty, but the administration and everybody who works here. Of course, it is the #1 employer in Ulster County, and it's also the resource for the private employers. So thank you. Anybody have any other questions? And so, fellow Vice President, congratulations. You know, I was going to mention that, but you know, that's good for you. And I should ask you, how is enrollment going?
So our admissions office is very busy. We have about 17,000 applications for fall 24 semester just in the undergraduate. 15,000. Of those, we've accepted about 9,500. Realize there's a yield from that. So last year we were about at the same point, but we had about a 12% yield. So we ended up with about 1,200, 1,190 from that. We're hoping to do better. We continue to accept our students, leverage our scholarships for those students. We have several initiatives to bring students in, and our big push to yield is our Accepted Student Day. I have two of them. One is coming up in April, April 6th, and the other is towards the end of April, April 20th. This is where we pull out all the stops. Last year, 65% of the students who attended that event matriculated at New Paltz. So we're hoping to see 75% this year. And the provost said I should keep accepting students, right? Yesterday, he told me that. So that's what we're going to keep doing.
Great. And is it a sense that it's going to go well?
So right now, it's going very well. We're ahead of where we were year over year. The wild card is the FAFSA. You've probably read about the changes in the FAFSA and how it has really derailed a lot of the admissions decisions that people are able to make. They just don't know what the financial aid packages will be, and that information is not making its way to campus. So we're anticipating now in the best case scenario that we will get the data that we need by the third week in April. As a result, we have pushed out our date for students to accept enrollment. Of course, it's a priority date. We keep accepting, if students deposit, we'll take them through the summer. But normally it's May 1st. We've moved it to June 1st, along with many of the other SUNYs do the same thing. This is to give our accepted students more time to make decisions and hopefully to get the information that they need to make good financial choices. But it will impact what students do. So we're thinking that we're going to have a later than usual, number to be able to present. But all right now looks good. If FAFSA was not an issue, I'd be really happy.
And all the competition has the same problem.
Everybody, this is a national problem. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Hannah's in the process as a parent, so.
So we have acceptances, but no choices to be made yet. So it's tough. Nice to get the acceptances.
Of course,
Trying to figure that out.
Sign the paper.
And right now it's hard to sign the
my-
paper.
Get on me on that. They talk about this, that I go, sign. paper. And so from the law perspective, if you really have to read the fine from lawyer hands, you have the wrong lawyer, because that's the lawyer's job, just sign the paper. And if they're not confident in what the lawyer, and not confident in the institution, then, well, maybe it's not right for you. What they should be is just.
Is the student acceptance day a common thing among universities?
Yes. And many of them have two. One thing that I think we can do better, and we're positioning ourselves to do this better, is to be more aggressive. A lot of the schools are a lot more aggressive than we are in terms of their communication with accepted students, in terms of going to where those accepted students are. So this year, we're going to leverage the SUNY Global Center, bring a business dean there, meet our accepted students, woo them a little bit. Yes.
And can I ask now that and maybe I'm just going to put you on the spot to answer right away. Is there anything that College Council can do to help with yield in that regard?
You have teed up something that I want. I don't know if we've talked about it or you have some psychic abilities, but yes, there is absolutely something. I think Renee and I have talked a little bit about this, right, Renee? So after Accepted Students Day, what we would like to do is ask College Council if you might want to make some phone calls to our accepted students.
Meanwhile, they can still get in.
Well,
Because they're.
well, they can
Everybody
still
keeps signing the
deposit.
paper and we can.
And we can give you talking
Feel like,
points.
gosh, I can still get you in.
I know people.
I'm really bad at this stuff.
Well, we'll help you out. We'll give you some
You
talking
think?
points.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that we'll get, that'll feel a little more
Sure.
personal
Sure.
to have somebody from College Council reach out. So if you're willing to,
See?
And
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
No, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
And also, you could, for those who don't want to talk, there are written documents that people can get too, coming
Yeah.
from folks with names and titles and
Yeah.
as an alum.
If you want to do an email instead or whatever, you decide, we can give it all to you and, give you a few lists and we'll keep it short, not too long, but long enough that, and we're going to have our students do some campaigning too. So this will pull out all the stops to try to really bring in the numbers. So I thank you.
Faculty doing that, right.
Yes, they're already doing it actually.
Excellent.
To invite the students to these events, although our signups have been very good for accepted student open house. So we're way ahead of where we were last year. So all of the indicators are out there. The wild card is the
We get them here because, this place looks great all the time in the spring and especially in early spring. Wow.
Make sure it's a sunny day.
Here, it's like.
Yeah.
Too soon to tell.
It's the FAFSA, the financial aid, federal financial aid that they have to submit. And because the federal government has made so many changes in the documentation, trying to make it easier. Well, you fill in the blank, Once they try to make it easier,
Trying to make it
it
easier.
never works out.
Oh.
Okay. So anything else? So Michelle, you're gonna let us know we're doing great, right? We're gonna change to green today? Not so much?
Yeah, but we've got some good news on the horizon. All right.
We found that pot of gold that President Christian had hidden under the floor.
That will be Sunday.
Yes, Sunday.
All right, Erica, are you seeing what I'm seeing? All right, good. Good. Okay, let's just move Erica a little bit. Sorry, technical difficulties. All right, so let's first talk about the state budget process. You all know that we are just a couple of weeks away, in theory, from having a state budget.
Niels,
So I just wanted to give you a quick update on the SUNY related items in that process that are most germane to Paltz, not necessarily all of SUNY. In the governor's executive budget in January, she outlined that she's still interested in providing SUNY with an additional 54 million in operating aid. This was in addition to the incremental increase that we received last year of 163 million. The Assembly and Senate both accepted the executive and wish to add $100 million at least to the state operated campuses. And the Assembly, in addition, would like to add access to 86.5 million on top of that for state operated campuses and statutory colleges. So it's always good news when all three of the stars align on a budget item. So I'm a little hopeful that we'll see at least the 54 million come our way. In addition, the Benjamin Center has been receiving some aid in a different line item. It doesn't come through as operating aid, but it is a special add to our budget. They've had $150,000 to run a special program called the Science Lab Initiative for the past few years. And that enables SUNY New Paltz to participate in K through 12 education by providing, purchasing actually equipment for science labs. And we have a person dedicated in the Benjamin Center to do that work. So Robin Jacobowitz has been doing a phenomenal job. She's brought in, I forget exactly, I think it's $2 million worth of funding to the campus as a pass-through to provide our partner schools in the areas with this much needed equipment. Unfortunately, the governor's action was to eliminate that, but the Senate is really fighting to restore it. We've seen this the last couple of years. It's been eliminated, but then it's been added back at the end. So we're hopeful. Our intel is that it will be ongoing for next year. In addition, there is a $1 million item in there related to the science of reading micro-credential. And again, it was added by the executive and accepted by both the Assembly and the Senate. So see, keep knocking on that wood. And as far as the capital part of the state budget goes, the capital program, the executive action was to keep SUNY pretty much at flat levels from last year, 50 million in critical maintenance funding, with another 100 million for building enhancements and new construction. And then some special nods for Albany, for the nanotech ultraviolet lithography center. The Assembly and the Senate accepted that, but both wish to add $670 million to that 550 in critical maintenance instead of 100. And that would be for enhancements and new construction as well. That would be really nice. It didn't make it into the budget last year, but SUNY is definitely in need of those critical maintenance and new construction opportunities. There are also some other nods from the Assembly and Senate that are not germane to New Paltz, but I put them in there for reference. One is to downstate, and the other to purchase and Buffalo College.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you go back to that?
Yeah.
Why is there such a substantial difference between the 100 million for the building enhancements and both of the houses? I think 670, and why is 670 so specific?
I haven't got a clue. You know, it's, I think that, you know, our advocacy, from the chancellor's office and from the president's office with our partners in the Assembly and Senate, lets them know that we have more critical need, than just that 550 million in critical maintenance can provide. So that 550, boils down to, for this campus, $4.7 million. $4.7 million doesn't even get us the elevator in this building. So we are in need of a lot more funding, and you know, sometimes there's this push and pull, and I couldn't explain exactly how this plays into the rest of the structures across the state, but SUNY has the largest square footage for buildings, and so we keep advocating for that. You know, some of this goes to, and I don't want to belabor the point too much, but there's a lot of push and pull with capital funding. It takes nearly 10 years, mostly about 7, from inception of a project to completion of a project. Some campuses are better at moving the projects through the pipeline than others. We've been pretty successful on this campus in moving lots of money through the system. And so there's a lot of unspent funding from previous years in the bucket. So the state's like, I'm not going to give you more if you haven't spent what you've got. So there's a lot of dynamic within the capital maintenance or capital program that I'm really not the best. Go ahead, Jill.
I'm just going to add one piece too. You know, the one house bills, they don't have to be balanced.
Yes.
Right? So they're really wish lists, and the executive budget had to be balanced. And then now there will be this push and pull, whatever,
Yeah.
negotiations in the room, 3 people in a room figuring out what's going to get prioritized or not. So we'll see.
When a construction project is allocated to a university in a year, does that money need to be obligated during that year? Or
It usually
like
gets
you-
reallocated again the following
Yeah.
year. So we get it again if we haven't spent it yet.
Okay.
So that's part of the
Right.
language in the final big book. It'll say, SUNY New Paltz got this money for this project and we didn't spend it in this year, so we're reappropriating it.
Things, right? It's not, capital's going to be bonded.
Yes, exactly. And so for reference, the big 3 items that I think we were approved for 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, were the College Hall renovation, which is a major renovation in excess of $100 million at this point. The Elting pool and gym, and the Peregrine Dining Hall. Right now, what's actually been allocated to SUNY New Paltz is just the design. Now, those 3 programs or 3 projects in total are over $200 million. That funding comes from this year's, the 24-25 budget, and then from 25-26, 26-27. So it's actually not even completely guaranteed that we'll have that funding. So they, like I said, they're doling it out piecemeal because some projects move more quickly than others. So it's a really dynamic and interesting, process that the state goes through when they're giving out money to SUNY and then SUNY Construction Fund, State University Construction Fund, giving it out to the campuses. Who's ready to go? What's going on? It's a real push and pull. Okay. All right, so how are we doing this year? Again, a little bit of a bright spot. Oh, do not restart now. We don't want to restart now. Stop it. How are we doing? So looking at cash balances, I know it's probably difficult from the back of the room to see this, but this represents the cash balances by month for the last 4 years. The current year is in purple, and the little star at the top is where we are now, and it appears as though our cash balances are larger than they were in the month of February than they were in the past 3 years. There's a little bit of a caveat there. We had to borrow some money for some of the residence hall projects that we're planning to do this summer. And the receipt of that $5.4 million happened in the month of February. So it's given us a little bit of a false hope there. But if you peel that out of our cash balance for February 29, we'd be right in line with last year, which is the green number, represented by the green bar here. So lower than we were in 21, 22 because the stimulus funds ran out, but not as low as we were during the pandemic. So holding steady, that means, our revenues and expenditures are normalizing now after the pandemic. And, we're doing what we can to mitigate any further shortfalls in cash. As far as the regular old reports that you see, last year is on the left, the current year is on the right. The good news about spring enrollment is it's not only increased year over year, but it is above our revenue target for the spring too. So there are a few adjustments that are still not in there for some scholarships and contract courses. But we look like we're going to have an overage from our target of about $500,000 for the year. The state, the SUNY has provided state support a little earlier this year, so you see some growth there. And then on the expenditure side, as we would think we would see in a year where we've gotten some retroactive salary increases, our personal service number is higher than it was last year, but still in line with where we are, with the percent of the year being 2/3 completed. We're at 64% for personal service expenditures, a little higher in temporary services. Again, some blips because of the retroactive increases, and utilities and supplies, contracts and travel are all coming in a little slow. They're not as regular as some other expenditures that we have, but by and large, we are doing pretty well year over year. So now we're going to talk about an invitation that the campus has received from the Chancellor's office to come and present our budget to the executive leadership on the second floor of the State University of New York. My president assures me that this is normal in other institutions, but this is something that I have not seen in the 3 decades I've been here at SUNY. So we get to go and present how we're doing and how we're going to close that gap that we've talked about earlier in this year on a 5-year budget plan.
We're not the only campus.
And we're not the only campus. Yes, there are several of us.
Is this a punishment or is this an invitation is this a best practice sharing?
Yes, Daryl, please.
So it's a little bit of both.
Mhm.
So before the invitation, back in the fall, I don't remember if I presented that piece here. In the fall, the chancellor told every campus that the Board of Trustees required a report by January 1 of this year on a plan for sustainability for every campus. So that was the marching order from the Board of Trustees that then was packaged and moved through the board and probably shared with the executive branch. We submitted ours along with everyone else, and there were questions about our enrollment numbers and at the end of the day, how we were going to close a $3 million gap over the 4 years. There were certain institutions then that had the remaining gap, and the difference in numbers. Stella and Michelle talked to SUNY Central. Looks like we've resolved the enrollment number gap. They were using one metric model. We were using a different one. We've come to a resolution on the consistency in the numbers. But we still have to answer the question, how do we resolve a $3 million gap over 4 years? So when you ask about best practices, I've been at multiple institutions. It is not uncommon to have a hearing annually for you to present the status of your institution. That's what I said is, I think it's best practice, as opposed to going 30 years or more and letting every campus do whatever it wants. That is not the way you should lead. And I think our new chancellor understands that and is being assertive, saying, as opposed to telling you, here's what you're going to do, they're asking you to come in and tell us how you got to where you are and how you're going to close the gap, which actually gives us an opportunity to explain our framework, our metrics, et cetera. But we have a $120 million minimum annual revenue feed, and we have to take $3 million out of that over 4 years. That is not an impossible number over 4 years. And that's the question on the table. And so in my mind, that's our opportunity to get in front of the chancellor's team to say, this is how we're going to do it. And that they should be able to ask questions. We should be able to give answers. And if we learn something in the process, great. But if we teach them something about why we make the decisions we do, all for the better.
Are they pitting one campus against the other?
Nope, that is not at this point, but you did see the chancellor's report stating that SUNY is going to have $1 billion deficit over a certain amount of time. And I talked to, without giving names, I know that one campus, we have a 3 million over 4 year, another campus has 16 million. Another campus has 10 million.
Yeah, so they're probably looking to see if some are kind of.
I didn't ask.
Of course, I mean, it's just reality, it's just demographics.
Yep.
And for vis-a-vis us, I think we're in a sweet spot. And so, like, I think we brought up last time, like, St. Rose closes in Albany, does very well for Santa. Maybe even for New Paltz, if you're people, so there's a whole thing that's going on. And, but you have to be reality. And, nothing is going to be the way you really think it's going to be. That's a fool's errand, but you have to have some general idea where it's going. Yeah, it's not get cold in the winter, even though we had a nice winter this year, but you can't plan on it every year.
That's right.
And so that's what I can kind of see that coming, but it's very rational. I mean, it's irrational to just bump along the road till it blows up.
That's it. And to me, it feels like an honest, difficult discussion. Isn't that how we started our meeting? Have difficult discussions. And if they see something that we don't see, it's like E8 time. It's like.
Yeah, and it's probably good for, we're probably a model. Is anybody going to be ahead of the game and they don't have a gap? Everybody has some hole. Right?
Even if they don't have a gap, nobody is sitting comfortably.
Right.
No, except Stony Brook. Okay.
This kind of,
it can happen anywhere, but you can't plan on it.
model is done in healthcare all the time. It's not something that is unique or new, and it's done regularly. So, and I can say that because it was higher up and I sat at those tables. And when you sit at the table, now you look at your private hospital doing X amount of dollars with X amount of resources, and a public hospital that has less resources, and they're doing much better than you are. So now it's like, well, wait a minute. We have the money, we're paying big salaries. Yeah, but you're not doing the output. Your numbers are poor overall. So when you look at what you're doing on the education side, we're giving you X amount of dollars. What are you doing with it as you relate to not just bringing in students, graduating them? Because we all know that, freshman year is the year any college gets their money, right? If we're honest. And then if you look at the fourth year, how many of those same students that came in 4 years ago have graduated? And that's, for me, in terms of the metrics, that's what I would look at to say, were we successful? Did we have, say, 100 people come in
in 2024. And 4 years later, how many of those 100 graduated? So that, for me, as an alumni, when I look at what this metric is best practice. And I'm glad that you're going because you are stellar for me. You know, you're the number lady. So as it relates to being able to share what we're doing here, it's not just infusing a program here and a program there. It's really, are we doing this? And are we doing this with a metrics? Because it's one thing to do it, but if you don't have a goal and you can't tell me specifically, healthcare, we need to know numbers. How much does this cost? How many patients can you service? Here is how many students, right? Because for me, it's just flipping the title.
That's right.
Right? And
So it's compared to what? You're comparing private to
no.
public. I'm just saying so for New Paltz, it's compared to,
Right.
Peers. And then you really know, not compared to some theoretical model.
Correct.
But let's talk about what's
Exactly.
really going on.
And they do it in such a guise where if all of us are in the room, it's a much more honest conversation than just comparing yourself to a SUNY or a CUNY. It's honest because now we're getting to see what your numbers really look like, not what you say in the media. What are you doing with those numbers? How many students are graduating? How much does your program cost? Right? And those are things that generally you're not going to see. But when you're in those meetings, it's open book.
So you said the word honest, I say the word objective.
There you go.
But it is the open book concept. And again, the open book concept, it has in a tight situation, it's unfortunate it's being introduced at that moment, but it has a very stabilizing effect because when you have that history, you look over that history and you know, year to year to year, am I solid? And you monitor for variance regularly. That's what I think that's what SUNY is striving for, and we have to become better players at it. Thank you, Michelle, for that.
Yep, sure. So, just a little note is that there are, I believe, about a dozen campuses that have been invited. And we are one of the last, if not the last, to do our presentation. So I'm going to be shamelessly stealing advice from my colleagues at the business officer level and learning from them. But I think that we're already poised for a good presentation. Something that President Wheeler started this year in faculty senate meetings was having each vice president present what their units, what their division are up to. So far we've had Stella and Shelley and Erica presented all of the good things that are going on in their areas. And so I'm busy taking things from, taking notes from their slides and showing trends in enrollment, what we're doing to increase enrollment and retention on campus, how are our scholarships playing into our retention numbers. And Erica had some really interesting data in her report this month. And then how is Shelley and her team marketing it? How are we reaching out to the parents? So as the president said, this gives us an opportunity to showcase what we're doing here and how we believe that we'll be successful in this, what they call aggressive enrollment endeavor that we're embarking upon. So what's in the plan? For increased revenues, we're allowed to put in tuition increases from enrollment increases, fee increases from enrollment increases, and I'll tell you why that's important in a moment. Room rent from occupancy, we're not quite at 100% occupancy post-pandemic, but we're getting really close. So we're anticipating being at full occupancy next year. And we are allowed to increase our room rates. We have to be sensitive to the market, but we can count on increased revenues from increasing that room rate. We also have the science of reading fundamentals micro-credential that's new this year. We didn't have that revenue source last year. And we can count on the new funding from the 23-24 budget process. Why that's important is the Chancellor's Office has started from our actual expenditures from last fiscal year. So we're allowed to add the new funding to our revenue sources. On the expense side, it's basically collective bargaining increases is driving the largest increase over that 5 years. SUNY has put the metrics in for that. But we're also showing the new expenditures from investments that are necessary for our new initiatives. So the science of reading fundamentals, as you might imagine, cost a little money to start up. So we're putting in not only startup, but recurring costs in association with those initiatives, as well as some of the initiatives that we have from transformational and incremental funding. So last year we got $939,000 for mental health counseling, students with disabilities, food pantry, graduate student mitigation fees, and internships. So we're placing those programs into practice right now and counting on all of those expenditures. So those are kind of an in and out. That $939,000 will show up on the revenue, but it will also show up on the expense. What's not in the plan yet is future program growth. We're looking at some new programs in Provost McClure area and also not some new programs, but some programs that are in their seedling stage and they're growing. So we're going to look to see how many students we anticipate Bachelor in General Studies to increase by over the next 5 years, as well as our new autism program. We're also really thinking about new micro-credential programs, that are not even in the seedling stage. We're going to put those seeds in the ground. So we're going to try to grow those. So those won't be in the plan yet. So in order to close that $3 million, we will need to demonstrate that there will be some belt tightening on campus. We're currently working on the numbers for that. What's also not in here, I didn't want it on any public space, but we're not allowed to put in any potential increases in state funding. So a few slides ago, I showed that we're hopeful to get $54 million across SUNY. Maybe that, and I'm just throwing this number out there, it's not for real, but maybe that throws $1 million our way to campus. We can't show that in there. We can't show any anticipated increases in tuition rates. We're not anticipating any tuition increases this year in undergraduate residential students, but we might see some increases in the graduate or out of state tuition rates, but we can't put those in there.
What about philanthropic inputs? That's not incorporated at all?
Philanthropic stuff is all on Erica's books. So we have 4 separate entities working on campus. We have the state, which I call mine. It's not mine. But the state appropriated dollars, which is your tuition fees and room rent. And then we have the foundation that takes in all of the donations for the campus. And we have the research foundation, which does the sponsored research activity, the grants. And then we have college auxiliary services, which handles the food service, bookstore, and vending contracts for the campus. So even though we all work together, the dollars are shown on different areas. But to your point is that if there are philanthropic dollars that are thrown off for general operations expenses, those can be passed through to the campus. Right, so that's it. That's all I have. What other questions do you have for me today?
Any questions? Well, thank you very much. Done a wonderful job. I don't know how you do it, but you have to know so much about so many things, not just the numbers. You have to know all the ins and outs of all the moving parts on campus. And it's funny, it's interesting. It actually works. Actually get it all. It's good. So thank you. Has any old business, new business from anybody? It's going to be graduation, believe it or not, but I guess you can tell by the weather outside, it's going to actually be May. And I think the graduation will be on the evening of May 17th. Arts and sciences will be on Saturday, the 18th, and on Sunday, science, engineering, business, and education, and fine and performing arts. So I encourage council members to attend. It's always a lot of smiling faces and not just the students, because their family and supporters get to celebrate as well. So it's just a great time, and I encourage everybody. But you know, you'll be hearing about that. Make sure it gets the right size, gown, et cetera. Lisa will be in touch. And the next meeting's on May 2nd. So put that in your calendar at 3 p.m. And I want to thank you all for attending and for the professional staff and administration for all your hard work in making things better for all of us, not just now, but in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
I.
All right, unanimous. Thank you very much, again.
It's anemic.
Thank you.